Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving, or whenever this gets released. Hopefully Thanksgiving. We'll have to wait and see. It's that special time of year. It's the year where we go, I still want to talk about spooky stuff. So, today we're doing something very exciting. For the first time ever on the internet, two dudes are going to talk about the movie Alien.
Yes, for the very first time, and for the only time, forever, and for the rest of time, and some other gibberish.
Yeah.
That sounds pretentious, kind of. Yes.
So, Alien, it's a movie that doesn't really need an explanation. It's one of those movies that's like really well regarded with the people that like actually care about like deep film and cinema. But here's the thing. Alien is actually cool. And I've kind of wanted to do a video or a podcast. Yeah, like come on, like what is it all those other like black and white, like if you go and look up what is it, like the list of like 100 greatest films, it's like a whole bunch of boring stuff and then Alien and like Jaws and Toy Story. Everything else is just like weird black and white stuff. Anyways, I've wanted to talk about Alien for a long time because I really like it. And was it this October I went and rewatched it a few weeks ago, and I was like, again, Alien is one of those movies that like I feel like every time you watch it, it gets better. And I was like, man, I like this movie a lot. So then it kind of hit me. Everything I like was either inspired by Alien or Alien was inspired by it. And sometimes it's both. So what we decided to do was we wanted to just do a video where we kind of talked about, the different stuff that Alien inspired or was inspired by that we personally like. This isn't going to be a list of a bunch of Alien ripoffs. There's a whole, void black nexus of darkness of cheap VHS movies that are just Alien clones before, they're actually cloning aliens, which I think was what the plot of Alien 4 was. But we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to talk about stuff that we personally think is cool that, like, hey, they took this from Alien. Another thing I should specify is we're only going to talk about stuff that was, inspired by the first one. We'll probably talk a little bit about Aliens, but I kind of want to save Aliens for its own video because Aliens it's a very different movie and it's kind of inspired a whole bunch of other stuff that I like. But for this one, we're just going to be talking about the first movie.
Yeah, I think we should try to limit it to the first film, just because, I mean, strictly speaking, like, they're more or less in separate genres, and depending on how you look at it, I don't know. There's going to be a lot more.
They're different movies.
Yeah, they're very different movies and such. But yeah.
So the first thing I want to talk about is some of the stuff that inspired Alien, and like the main things that I know. I read some article online. I meant to have it up so I could say who read it, but they said that like the three movies that like kind of inspired Alien the most was what's it called? Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I haven't seen that movie, so I don't have a lot to say about it. 2001: A Space Odyssey. Haven't seen it. I know what it is. Star Wars. Haven't seen it. Never heard of it. Not sure what it is. I think it's like a French film. And then
I thought it was a Turkish film.
I think you're right. I think it is a Turkish film.
Yeah.
And then what I also found out, which this one here was the one that surprised me the most, was they were making a Dune movie back in the 70s, like Frank Herbert's Dune. And apparently it got canceled, and all of the people that were in production with that, like H.R. Giger and stuff, all got moved over to Ridley Scott's team. So apparently Dune was actually a huge inspiration for Alien, which that's pretty cool. Did not expect that to pop up.
Yeah, that's weirdly out of left field, despite it being a highly regarded sci-fi work.
Yeah, and like, Dune is a sci-fi book, and it's a very like dark depiction of science fiction, but very little, if any, of that book takes place in space. So I mean, like, I imagine a lot of the like architecture designs got brought over from that, but apparently there's a documentary about this movie that never got made because it was going to star like Mick Jagger and Orson Welles. And if you ask me, that sounds terrible. So I'm kind of glad this movie didn't get made because presumptuously it made Alien better. But going back to 2001 and Star Wars, the main thing that inspired Ridley Scott with 2001 was the fact that the sets for the spaceship were all like practical. But the thing was that 2001 is a very clean spaceship, you know?
Yeah.
And he wanted it to be more like Star Wars, where in Star Wars everything's all super like dirty and gritty. But here's the thing. Ridley Scott took that and like turned it up to like 1,000. Like, that's one of the things I love about the movie, is just how like dank and wet and dirty just that whole spaceship is. Like,
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, and like just how lived in all the crew quarters are
Mm-hmm.
and such.
Like, Star Wars is definitely like weird and like dirty with their spaceships, but it's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of like in a weird way. Like, you don't really know why. In Alien, it just feels more realistic. And obviously it inspired a whole bunch of other stuff to do the same thing. So, here's the thing. A lot of people claim that Blade Runner was like the first like cyberpunk movie that kind of created the cyberpunk genre. Me, though, who's a genius, I'm like, no. It was Alien. Because, one, obviously they were made by the same people. But, like I said, the set for that movie is just incredible. Like, the design work and just the atmosphere as a whole. And what's it called? Both the spaceship and the alien planet they go to. Is it LV-422 or something like that?
I thought it was LV-142.
I think you're right. I know there's a
Okay.
4 and a 2 somewhere in there. But, yeah, I mean, just like the little things. Like, the fact that the doors will have panels missing off of them, and there's just a whole bunch of tubing through these doors. Why is there tubing inside the door? There doesn't need to be tubing in that door. Well, do you know what? It looks awesome. Do you know what it also looks like? It looks like Doom. It looks like Quake. Did you really think we were going to make it through this video without talking about those two games?
No.
Obviously, huge fans of both of those. What's it called? Doom is obviously the one that's more inspired because more of Doom takes place on like tech bases and stuff. There's only like 4, maybe like 6 levels in Quake that take place on tech bases. But I don't know if we've talked about this before, but the original Doom games I think still hold up as horror games just because they are legitimately creepy, even though like they're very dated. And a big part of that is because, you know, it completely replicates the experience of Alien. You know, it's a dark, dirty sci-fi place. There's dark lights and there's creepy sounds. It is a masterpiece.
Oh, and we were both wrong. It's LV-426.
Oh, LV-426, dang it.
I just watched it this past weekend, but I didn't really...
Mhm.
Well, no, they don't mention the name of it, do they?
I
the
think they
the original
do.
film?
I could be wrong. I know they mention it in the second one.
Yeah, I know that for a fact, but I can't remember. Even
Yeah.
though, like I said, I watched it this past weekend.
Oh
well.
Going back to that planet, though, the spaceship they go onto on that, the alien one or the engineers one, according to what's it called, Prometheus.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very Lovecraft inspired. You know, like it reminds me a lot of the Lovecraft stories of going into these, alien architecture things and finding extinct aliens and stuff. And
Yeah, the space jockey.
yeah, the space jockey. It's so good. Like, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about this, man. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the crazy part. There's still other stuff that, like, took inspiration from Alien. And, like, another one I want to talk about is the first Half-Life game. Because of, it's more grounded on Earth, but you do get a lot of that. You get kind of the dirty, worked in, underground labs and stuff. But there's also a lot of crawling through ventilation shafts in that game, which those parts always reminded me of Alien. And then when you go to Zen at the end of the game, that's like they took the inside of that spaceship, like a bunch of H.R. Giger stuff, and they just like painted it all tie-dye. So like, again, I'm a huge Half-Life fan, and it's really cool to see. It's cool to see like where they get inspiration for that stuff. Yep. Do you want to talk about Scorn?
Yeah. Kind of briefly, because I'm not 100%, like, I'm not fully aware of, like, the whole development of it and whatnot, but yeah, I'll talk about it a bit. So this past year, a game called Scorn was released on... Was it just on Steam, or did it come out on consoles?
I think it came out on console too, but it might just be on Steam.
Okay. As far as I know, just on Steam. But anyway, this game was largely inspired by the artwork of H.R. Giger. And you can tell
When we
that
say
right
heavily,
away.
we mean very heavily.
Yeah, you could tell that right away by how everything looks like either a phallus or a vulva. And like there's just a dankness to everything. It's like, yeah, it's not pretty looking. It's interesting to look at, but it's not pretty. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like long story short, well, I think the game was in development or had been announced like a long time ago. Got released this past year. Most people have pretty much decided it's like, yeah, the artwork is good, like the aesthetics of it are pleasing, but yeah, the gameplay kind of sucks. So I don't know what else there really is to say about it, other than the fact that some of the environments do kind of resemble the ship that they explore or that they find in Alien a bit. Just how it looks like you're walking down a trachea or like an intestine or something.
Yeah, it's almost like the roof has like a spinal column and stuff.
Yeah,
like,
weird stuff like cool. That. Yeah, and then you find like other creatures that are like a part of like there's like this weird like combination of like what looks like machinery, but it might actually be organic life or like mummified life or what fossilized life, whatever you consider the space jockey to be. I think they they call him like a fossil or whatnot, but yeah, stuff like that. Except it might still be living in Scorn. Yeah, I haven't played the game. I have watched gameplay.
Yeah, it was a game that I was definitely like following before it came out, and then it came out, and everyone was like, mid, and I'm like, maybe I'll get it when it's on sale, but
exactly,
I'm not gonna get it when it's at full price right now.
Yeah.
Another one that I think is funny is how we talked about how Alien was inspired by Star Wars, and now we're at the point where we're getting Star Wars stuff inspired by Alien. So, like, the biggest one is in Rogue One when they go to that, I think it's like a TIE fighter factory or something like that. They go to a planet where Jyn Erso's dad is at, and according to the director, that is supposed to be LV-426. And when you know that, it's like, oh yeah, that's totally that planet. Like, it's literally just the same. It's just like a big, weird, rocky planet, and it's always raining, and there's always thunderstorms. And I'm like, that's cool. The other one I want to talk about is in The Force Awakens, when Han Solo has his weird spaceship that he picks up the Millennium Falcon in. I always thought that spaceship looked really, really similar to the Nostromo. It's just like a whole bunch of metal hallways with graded floors, and what I think is funny, that's the part where they get attacked by those big octopus monsters. And I was like, it'd be funny if instead of that they were just like, yeah, no, there's xenomorphs on this spaceship. The only problem is nobody would have survived that movie if there was xenomorphs.
Yeah, that is a good point.
It would have been cool though.
Yeah.
If it was, imagine that, like, the biggest movie of like the year, where it's like, oh, I can't wait to see the new Star Wars movie. Then halfway through, it's like, surprise, it's actually an Alien movie.
Yeah,
you've fallen for my hilarious trick. A couple other ones I just want to rattle off. The movie Jurassic Parks kind of gave me Alien vibes, just with the Velociraptors. How the Velociraptors are kind of like going around the facility, stalking them all. The thing I like is, in Jurassic Park, the Velociraptors are supposed to be really smart. And what's kind of interesting is, if you go off what Ash says in the first Alien movie, the alien is also supposed to be like this, really like intelligent creature as well. Like, you don't really get that in the sequels, but in the first movie, he talks about how it's like the perfect ultimate species. So if Disney is listening and they're making a new Alien, because of course they're going to, I would kind of like to see a little bit more of that, showing like how smart a xenomorph can get, you know?
Yeah. And emphasis on a single xenomorph and not a whole crowd of them.
Mm-hmm.
Do it.
Yeah.
Or a single alien. I don't know how many people are partial to the term xenomorph.
Yeah. A couple other things I just want to say. The show Red Dwarf, which is a show that I know what it is and probably nobody else. I mean, I've shown you before, Connor.
Yeah, I'm aware of it.
But it's a British... I always thought it was supposed to be a spoof on like Star Trek, because I think it was coming out around the same time as The Next Generation. But apparently it was actually supposed to be more a spoof on Alien, which I didn't pick up on until like I read that. And it makes a lot of sense because it's like a mining ship, and there's like a cat, and like the cat is kind of like the first couple episodes they're chasing the evolved form of a cat through like ventilation shafts and stuff, and it's like a human at this point, but it's a silly show. And then another thing I want to talk about, because this is my freaking YouTube channel and I can say whatever I want, is Lego Rock Raiders. What is that? Believe it or not, it was like the last like space theme that they did for like their classic space stuff, and I didn't even realize it was considered a space theme. But again, it was like, up until that point, like the space sets were all very like clean and fun and stuff, and then you have the Rock Raiders line where it's just like a bunch of dark, dirty vehicles and stuff. Like the main color scheme was like dark gray brown with like blue highlights. Like you just have to look it up. And like the minifigures were all like, really tough, dirty looking. It looked like people you'd see in Alien. Yeah. So fun little thing right there to talk about. Anything you want to add?
Yeah. And I know we're going to have a specific category for xenomorph ripoffs, and I don't think this really falls under that, or these two. But there are a couple things from the Resident Evil series that you could say were inspired by, like, the xenomorph and Alien.
Yeah, I can see it.
Particularly the G Imago from Resident Evil 2. Now, these are these little, like, parasite-looking things that... You only really see them in a boss fight and in a couple cutscenes, but they're like, yeah, they look really weird. But they're pretty much like Resident Evil's equivalent of a face hugger. They try to force their way to a human host by like shoving themselves down their throat. Like they don't just hug the face; they like actually try to go down them. And they do violently explode out of the host, but that's only because of like a incomplete mutation or something. I forget the specifics. So kind of similar, but yeah, they don't form a alien or a chest burster. They like mutate the host. So that's kind of where the similarities end. And then one that I was not really aware of because I have still not played this game is that apparently there's a cafe in the Resident Evil 3 remake called Coffee Shop Sigourney, which obviously is a nod to Sigourney Weaver, who plays Ellen Ripley in the Alien franchise. And some kind of like tidbits on the wiki is that apparently the coffee shop was established in the year of 1979 when the film came out, and that the logo of the coffee shop looks like the logo for the Nostromo.
Yeah. I guess another one I should add, again, I haven't really played these games, but the Metroid franchise, obviously very inspired by Alien. I mean, the main villain is also named Ridley, as like a reference to Ridley Scott.
Well, no, the main villain is Mother Brain, which is Mother, the, AI.
Oh, yeah, Mother, the AI from, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
See, look, I out-nerded you, Robbie.
That's good. That's why we do this. So another section I kind of want to talk about is Xenomorph ripoffs, and I was really hoping I thought I'd be able to get like a bunch of these, because it almost seems like every single sci-fi something has like something that looks like a xenomorph,
Yeah.
Like it's just part of our pop culture now. But some of the ones I want to talk about specifically, the elites from Halo are very clearly inspired by xenomorphs. Especially if you go back and look at the original designs for them from when the game was going to come out on like Mac. Like they didn't have like any armor at all. They looked just like the aliens. And the thing that always makes me kind of sad about Halo, and this is a stupid thing to be upset about, but like it seems like every game they get less and less like a xenomorph. Like they're trying to hide the fact that it's a ripoff of Alien. But like, there's no shame in ripping off Alien. It's great. Everybody likes it.
Yeah.
You know? And then going back to Half-Life 1, you know, we kind of talked about H.R. Giger's obsession with, you know, making stuff looking like particular body parts. Yeah, Half-Life 1 is like, yeah, what if we did that, but we weren't, like, subtle about it? And it's not all of them, but obviously the Gone arc, it's the one where you're like, wow, you really put this in the game.
Yeah. It's like it's more or less a Doom knockoff, but it's also like, yeah, I don't think they were afraid of anything at that point, or maybe quit. Doom, or is it technically more of a Doom or a Quake knockoff?
According to Gabe Newell, it was supposed to be a Doom knockoff.
Okay.
But, I mean, Quake is already a Doom knockoff as well.
Oh, yeah, that's
it's the holy trinity of boomer shooters that have the same plot.
As in barely any. It's just a premise. Okay. All right, more Xeno knockoffs or ripoffs or whatnot.
Yeah, I got two that are technically the same thing in my mind, but the Zerg from StarCraft / the Tyranids from Warhammer 40k. I mean, they're basically the same thing. The Zerg are definitely more like xenomorphs because they have like the weird, you know, mucus structures that they build. I don't even know what it is. The weird slime structures. But those are both two things that, you know, very clearly inspired by, what's it called? Alien.
Yeah. I got another one to throw in real quick, just because, I don't know, I didn't really have much. And this one I'm kind of just thinking of now since I mentioned Resident Evil, but William Birkin's Stage 4 in Resident Evil 2 kind of looks a bit like a xenomorph, mainly because of his head's very phallic. Rates very high on the H.R. Geiger counter. Probably a 5 out of 6.
Can we make that a thing, the H.R. Geiger counter?
No, that's my joke.
Okay.
But yeah, we can make it a thing. We should make it a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I don't know, maybe you could say he looks more like the xenomorph from the third film because that was like based on a dog, and he's like this form of him's like on all fours as opposed to being bipedal. So I don't know. I still think it kind of has some like visual similarities, but it might not have been entirely inspired by the xenomorph.
And honestly, this is kind of going a little bit back, but even like the was it the Lickers from Resident Evil 1? Like when you're in the lab, like at the end of the game, and they're crawling around, that's also very xenomorph-like.
Yeah, kind of. Maybe like because are the xenomorphs technically blind?
I don't know. I have no idea how it works, and that's kind of what makes them cool, I think. Especially in the first movie, how, like, you know, a lot of people, you'd think they would be more upset about the fact that, like, within, like, a couple hours, it goes from being a chest burster into a full-grown alien. But that's kind of what I like, that it doesn't really work in, like, the other entries in the franchise, but, like, the idea of this creature that's just so far removed from how life works on Earth that it can literally like grow and like molt, you know, to be the size of a human within like a couple hours. I just think that's a really cool and a really scary idea because you don't know what it's going to transform into eventually, you know?
Yeah, and there's like the Lovecraft influence if we hadn't mentioned that before. It's like just something that just completely usurps our understanding of, well, everything of science and how things are supposed to be. Not just, you know, finding weird crap out in the middle of nowhere, but also, you know...
Yeah. Oh, man, this movie is so good.
Bringing it back, yeah.
Yeah. Bit of a lightning round. These are all things that I just feel like I should mention. what is it? Frieza from Dragon Ball Z. He has a form that looks exactly like a xenomorph.
Yeah, they even make a joke about it in Dragon Ball Z Abridged.
Yep, it's awesome. What is it? Rudaka is a Bionicle. Kind of looks like a xenomorph. It's got like black and silver with a long protruding head. Going to Godzilla. Godzilla 1998. I don't know if they've ever officially said it was that design for Godzilla was inspired by a xenomorph, but it kind of looks like one, like just by having like the big spikes like right above the shoulders and making it all gray and skinny and stuff. It's a cool design. I like it. Destoroyah from Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. Obviously, just a huge alien ripoff right there. The bad guys from Contra, I really want to talk about them because they are...
just like the last level from the original game, and maybe even the second one too, Super C.
Yeah.
Because I haven't played that all the way through.
It's literally like face huggers, and there's a big xenomorph head you have to shoot up.
Yeah. And the environment, you could say, is vaguely H.R. Giger-esque, if you could, you interpreted it as 8-bit.
As far as you can get with NES graphics.
Yeah, I don't know how it looks in the arcade, because that did have way better graphics, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll have to find that out someday.
So that kind of concludes my list of Xenomorph ripoffs. If you have any good ones, please put them in the comments.
Definitely.
I was hoping to have a section about other random stuff, but all I could do was flamethrowers. How, like, there's a couple movies that have flamethrowers in it, but I'm like, this is just like Alien. And the main one I want to talk about is John Carpenter's The Thing. Like, they both movies, it's just a bunch of dudes on a secluded area, and what do you do when you get bored? You build a flamethrower.
Except they actually had functioning flamethrowers in The Thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They were actually able to use it.
Yeah. You know what they used them for, like, beforehand, right?
In like Alien or The Thing?
For The Thing.
I thought they just did it just because they were bored.
No, they used them for de-icing.
Oh.
That's what they're allegedly
effective.
For.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Have
you ever tried to melt an ice cube with like a blowtorch?
No.
It's not easy. It takes a long time.
Well, yeah, but these are also like, they had a couple military-grade flamethrowers, which I don't think would be realistic at all.
No.
Then you got Palmer with his little propane one.
Yeah.
That one's more of like a commercial de-icing or like defoliaging or whatever you call it.
Mm-hmm.
One, but yeah. But yeah, it's like whenever I describe the film The Thing to anybody, I always describe it as Alien on crack in Antarctica. Because they are very similar in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
Just like an extraterrestrial.
And it is funny that The Thing is like way more batshit crazy, because the first Alien movie is still pretty crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just the funniest thing. They're like only like 3 years removed from each other, and they're kind of sandwiched between, or maybe like released around like two like really well-known like sci-fi films that had a much more, you could say, positive outlook on extraterrestrial life. Like Star Wars maybe is more a bit neutral, just because I don't know. But
it was episode 6 that came out around that time, right?
It was 82 when The Thing came out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So when did Empire was 85, right?
I thought Empire was just 80.
Was it 80?
Yeah, I think
remember. So. Okay, well, I don't remember, but I'm thinking the first film, like 77.
Oh, okay.
And then you have E.T., which came out around the time of The Thing.
No, it came out like the exact same time, I think.
Yeah, and that's
I don't know if it was like the same day, but it was like The Thing actually did bad in theaters because everybody was watching E.T. for some reason.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, E.T. is a well-directed movie, but like compared to The Thing, it sucks. Okay?
Hey, at least it's better than Mac and Me.
Oh my gosh. Have you actually tried to watch that movie?
No, I don't even know where I'd be able to like find a copy of it.
There's a
except on the Pirate Bay.
What's it called? There was a Mystery Science Theater episode about it, and
yeah,
I started
that. Sounds about right.
Yeah. I was in tears, and my brother, who was in the same room as me trying to go to sleep, thought I was like an idiot because I kept laughing at the stupidest stuff, but yeah, wow, what a bad movie.
Yeah.
I'm glad that bad movies can exist, but I'm also glad that good movies like Alien can exist.
Yeah. It's not a... I don't know if a zero-sum game is the exact phrase I'm looking for, but yeah, like both can be true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, not zero-sum game. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But yeah.
All right, that basically concludes all the stuff I wanted to say. I guess if I had to give a quick review for Alien, I would say it's one of the coolest movies ever, and it's also one of the grossest movies ever. And it gets a 5 out of 5, and I'm awarding it the greatest honor you can get on this channel, which is the Golden X Award. So,
Neat.
yep.
Yep.
If you collect 5 Golden X's, you can turn it in for 1 peso.
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm.
Before or after tax?
After tax, of course.
Okay. Alrighty. But yeah, Alien's definitely one of my favorite films. Not sure if like top 10, but maybe like definitely close if it isn't.
Yeah, it's definitely close to top 10. It's at least top 20, 25, 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me know if you like this video, because if you liked it, we can definitely do one for the second movie, because that one's got a lot of, it inspired a lot of stuff too that we could talk about.
Exactly. And was inspired by some other very important stuff as well.
Mm-hmm. Vietnam.
Starship Troopers.
Oh, yeah.
The book, not the film.
The book. All right. Well, that concludes our podcast. Happy Thanksgiving, or whenever you're listening to this. Happy World Cup.
Happy Thanksgiving mixed with Christmas, pilgrims.
Yep. All right. I'm Robbie.
And I'm a guy that is here.
Yep. We tolerate each other, and we tolerate you. Bye.